Mulligans are extremely prevalent in the Pokemon trading card game. They are seemingly out of your control, yet are a huge component to deck building. How often your deck mulligans can be the difference between a good deck and a great deck, so let's look into how you can get around mulligans. A mulligan occurs when you draw your starting hand of 7 cards and do not get a basic Pokemon you can put into play. When this occurs, you must shuffle your hand back into your deck and redraw 7 cards. This process repeats until you get a basic Pokemon in your starting hand. For each mulligan you take, your opponent may draw a card. They are not forced to draw a card, however nearly every opponent does so because it is a huge advantage and you should too. It is important to note that several Stage 1 and Stage 2 cards have abilities that allow you to put them into play throughout the game without needing the basic. A good example is Beedrill from Vivid Voltage with the Elusive Master ability, where you can play it directly onto your bench if it's the last card in your hand. If you do so, draw 3 cards. This cannot be used to put it directly into play and prevent a mulligan. Same goes for the Lombre from Rebel Clash, where its top entry ability lets you put it directly on your bench if you drew it as your card for the turn. Your starting hand of 7 cards does not trigger abilities like that. While it may seem like being at a 1 or 2 card disadvantage isn't too bad, this is major and can cause your opponent to set up much quicker than normal. In most cases, decks have a few key components that are crucial to get out as quickly as possible, like Pokemon and supporter cards, or even energy in some cases. Each extra card your opponent draws is another opportunity for them to get key components. If your deck has very few basics and causes you to mulligan often, then your deck will constantly be at a disadvantage against all other decks before the game even starts. Consistently being at a disadvantage is very bad for you, because even if your deck is strong and the core of it works, your opponent will always be slightly ahead of you before the game even begins. The odds of mulligans are very easy to understand once you get the concept of it. There's a very handy table on justinbasil.com that has the exact odds of getting a mulligan based on how many basics you have in your deck. I'll have the website linked in the description of this video. But the important thing to note on the table is how having only 5 basics will make you mulligan over half the time. This means that you will double mulligan approximately 25% of the time, being at a 2 card disadvantage then. Just adding only 2 basics and going up to a total of 7 will lower your mulligan odds to 39.91%. Now that's still high, but that makes your double mulligan odds only approximately 16%, which is way better than 25%. Occasionally, mulliganing a lot might actually be a good thing for your deck. And some mill decks might end up enjoying your opponent drawing a couple more cards at the start of the game to make them deck out sooner. There's a clear negative to this, however. They'll get set up much quicker and can knock out your Pokemon before you can get your strategy set up. This is extremely gimmicky, however, and should not be seen as an actual option. Rather a minimal bonus in decks that just so happen to mulligan often. But you should not build your deck around that. The real advantage to having a deck mulligan a lot is actually to make room for more cards in your deck. The less basics you're forced to run, the more energy and trainer cards you can run, which may end up making your deck more consistent than if you had the other basic. Plus, if you can manage to use a Marnie while your opponent has a large hand, this can help offset the mulligan greatly, causing them to drop from potentially an 8 card hand down to only 4, which can help turn the tides in your favor in this case. Mulligans are a very potent part of the game and should not be ignored. Mulliganing often could be a sign that your deck may need to be modified at some point. If you want my personal recommendation on how many basic Pokemon you should run in your deck, I would say that there really is no specific number that you should aim for. This is not just a quick thing that you do once and ignore, rather it is a process of doing multiple iterations on your deck over time. Consistency is key and no single component matters over others. However, it is very important to keep this in mind when you're making your deck. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you have a better understanding on how mulligans work in the Pokemon trading card game. If you want more videos like this, then be sure to subscribe in order to get this in your recommended more often and be notified when I upload videos.